Welcome to the True Crime Never Sleeps podcast. I am your host, Larry Lease. And on today's episode of Murder Monday, we dive into the murder of Amie Harwick. But first, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Audible, for sponsoring this episode. Audible is a massive library of audiobooks from every genre. They've got everything from the latest bestsellers to those old classics you've always wanted to read, but just never got around to it. And they've got a huge range of genres, from romance, mystery, sci-fi, fantasy, whatever floats your boat. It's super easy to get started with Audible too. All you need is an internet connection and a smartphone or tablet. Or you can even listen on a Fire TV. You can listen at home, at work, on the train, during your commute, while you're out walking your dog. You get the picture. It's basically endless content for endless moments in life. Check them out today. And if you want a free 3-month trial and a free audiobook of your choice, head on over to audibletrial.com/Larry21. And without further ado, let's get into our topic today. The murder of Amie Harwick and domestic violence culture in America. The murder of Amie Harwick is a jolting reminder that domestic violence, specifically intimate partner violence towards women, is a deadly issue that continually slips below the public's radar. That is, with the exception of those fighting the issue behind the scenes, professionals and champions like Harwick herself. Harwick was a perfect contradiction where stereotypes are concerned, a doctor of human sexuality and a playboy model. She exemplified female sexual empowerment, independence, strength, unabashed ambition, revolt against shame. She demolished the long-perpetuated notion that a woman's intellect and sex appeal are mutually exclusive, and never shied away from simultaneously embracing her brains and beauty. Amie Harwick was bold, accomplished, stereotype smashing, and she was murdered. The sun set on Valentine's Day 2020, and Amie Harwick's returned home to her 1927 Tudor-style mini manor in the Hollywood Hills. When Valentine's Day ended and the new day began, the amorous haze associated with both the day and the woman vanished. A dark and empty void was left in its place. When jarring sounds of a woman's screams alerted neighbors in an otherwise untroubled cul-de-sac, the police were called to the 2000 block of Mound Street, but their arrival came too late. Harwick was found on the ground below her third-story terrace, unresponsive, with fatal blunt force injuries to her head and chest. She was rushed to the hospital, where she succumbed to her injuries. 2 weeks prior to her death, Harwick, who was 38, attended a professional event with colleagues and friends. The Starry Porn Awards. Harwick was a therapist with a doctorate in human sexuality. She treated victims of domestic violence and sexual abuse, counseled couples struggling with sexual insecurities and addiction, and also led support groups for sex workers and people in the adult entertainment industry. Gareth Pursehouse, her ex-boyfriend from over a decade ago, coincidentally attended the event as a freelance photographer, one of his jobs, along with software engineering and amateur stand-up comedy, which didn't appear to be going well. At the event, Pursehouse ran into Harwick, which, according to Harwick's colleague, who was present at the time, prompted Pursehouse to cause a scene by yelling in Harwick's face as she tried to pacify him. Allegedly, the encounter triggered Pursehouse's dangerous obsession with Harwick that had plagued her years before. Since their split, Harwick had filed 2 separate restraining orders against Pursehouse, who stood 6'4" and 230 pounds, one in 2011 and one the following year, claiming he had choked, suffocated, and kicked her during the relationship. He once had pushed her out of a car and left her on the side of the freeway. That he had stalked her and that she was afraid for her own safety. At one point, her home was broken into, photo albums were taken, and her computer had been wiped. She told best friend Robert Koshland she suspected it was Pursehouse. The restraining orders had expired prior to Valentine's Day. Police said they had surveillance video of the suspect, a white male in a black hoodie, fleeing the scene after her home was broken into and she was attacked and thrown off her 3-story terrace. Her attacker had entered her home hours earlier on Valentine's Day and waited for her to return home. She had purchased and moved into the house a year prior. Gareth Pursehouse, 41, of Playa del Rey, was arrested hours later in connection with her death. Harwick had been involved with Purse House when she was a young model in her 20s. She performed at events and mastered the carnivalesque fire-eating act, swallowing an element that exemplifies both danger and pain. Following their split, Harwick earned her MA in clinical psychology from Pepperdine University and then her doctorate from the Institute for Advanced Study of Human Sexuality. She became a published author of the New Sex Bible for Women, The Complete Guide to Sexual Self-Awareness and Intimacy. She launched the Thriving Therapy Practice and appeared in documentaries, on podcasts, and on daytime TV as a specialist in her field. She bought her dream home in a serene neighborhood and decorated it with Victorian oddities and quirky taxidermy pieces she described as honoring life. Sadly, Harwick's murder isn't an unfamiliar occurrence. Women have been killed at the hands of their current or past partners since the beginning of time. Harwick's death is an eerie and tragic reminder that attitudes towards women might never truly change. According to a 2019 Psychology Today article, a woman's life is safer with an acquaintance or someone she does not know than with a man she's been intimate with. Since 2014, domestic violence murders have increased after 40 years of a steady reduction, now with nearly 4 women being murdered each day by a current or previous intimate partner. It's 2022, or 2023, however you want to call it, and women still receive death threats when they come forward with allegations of sexual assault. It's 2023, and while women have finally achieved a sliver of success fighting injustices with movements like Me Too and Time's Up, there's been another attitude that existed for centuries and festers now deeper again today. It's 2023, and white supremacy and white nationalism are experiencing a heavy resurgence. And misogyny, victim blaming, and violence are all cornerstones of that ideology. In Texas, Penal Code Chapter 19, regarding homicide, states that crime of passion laws, referred to as sudden passion, can be factored in during the sentencing period once a person has been convicted. This means that if passion is provoked or given adequate cause by the victim, that the murderer may receive a lesser sentence. The felony is changed from first degree with prison time between 5 and 99 years to a lesser punishment of prison time as little as 2 years and a maximum of 20 years, essentially creating a loophole for the murderers that kill only when it's deemed that the victim deserved it. In a 2014 Huffington Post article, Alana Fagianos wrote, the number of American troops killed in Afghanistan and Iraq was 6,488. The number of American women murdered by current or ex-male partners during the time was 11,766. That's nearly double the amount of casualties lost during war. It's 2023 and the collective woman's crystal ball is looking bleak. When most schools teach sexual education to America's youth, why aren't they teaching them skills to maintain healthy relationships? When schools don't offer basic life skills, it might be assumed that the responsibility lies with parents rather than educators. The study states adults have failed to provide young people with meaningful guidance on how to develop gratifying, mature, respectful, sexual, and love relationships. So basically, most parents are winging it because no one taught them either. One person who did work to educate people on healthy relationships, sexual and emotional well-being, and coping with heartbreak was Dr. Amie Harwick. In 2019, she published a video on YouTube titled Surviving a Breakup, a 30-Day Guide. On April 16, 2020, Purse House entered a plea of not guilty. According to Daily Mail, his father was also accused of stalking his own ex-fiancée, and a protective order had been issued against him within a year of Harwick's restraining order against Gareth. Amie Harwick had long admired slain actress Sharon Tate. When the Tate family held an auction, Harwick purchased 2 of Tate's bras, had them framed, and displayed them in her walk-in closet. Close friends insisted she be buried in one of Tate's bras, and so she was on February 27th. Amie Harwick was laid to rest in her hometown of Lansdale, Pennsylvania, surrounded by the family and friends who adored her. Let us know your thoughts on this case in the comment section below. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up if you like our video. Hit the bell notification button to be notified of future videos. And if you want to support the channel, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/TCNS. And go find us on Good Pods. Take a listen, leave us a review. And as always, thank you so much for watching and listening. We will see you next time.